The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Modern farming is about more than crops and livestock, and on today's Farm Connections, we'll take a closer look at alternative products of agriculture. My first two guests tell us about the development and application of biomass products, which are surprisingly versatile. Then I'll get a fascinating guided tour of an ethanol plant in southern Minnesota. We'll also meet the next FFA Student Leader of the Week, and it's all right now on Farm Connections.
Welcome to Farm Connections with your host, Dan Hoffman.
One of the keys to successful farming is innovation. Farmers have always had to adapt to new challenges, whether it's found in the ground below, the sky above, or the marketplace all around us. Today's innovators within the ag industry are converting traditional crops like corn, soybeans, and even wood into useful new products such as biomass. To get a better understanding of the production and use of biomass, I visited with Al Doering of the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute, a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving rural Minnesota's economy through innovation, and also with Sue Kruger, CEO of Eagle Biofuels of Plainview, Minnesota, a company whose business is in the production of biomass products. Let's listen in. Sue, tell us about your company and how it got started.
Well, in July of 2006, we were looking for another market for our corn. And after going to a couple county fairs and looking at corn burners and talking to the hearth store and corn burning salesmen that were there, they said, you know, we really need a farmer to sell us consistent corn dried at a certain moisture level and screened very well and delivered, because people are putting everything and anything in our corn burners, and some of them aren't set up to burn just that. So then Hurricane Katrina had simultaneously hit that following fall, and we were kind of thinking, well, this might be a good alternative business for our corn market, because at the time, if we would have brought our corn down there, I think we were getting like $1.29 a bushel.
$1.29 for a bushel of corn. At
Winona ADM, because they only got so many bushels, only so many barges up there, and then they didn't have any place to put it, and it was just sitting there.
The basis widened because the river was shut down because of Katrina.
Yep, and there we were sitting.
Wow.
And I've always been curious about renewable energy, and one of the first things I did was go on AURI's website and read about all the different types of grains that you could burn and what the BTU and the ash content and the emissions would be for each one. And so that's how Eagle Biofuels started. A few hearth stores gave us names of customers. We sent them a flyer with an order form for so many bushels of corn, and then we did buy some wood pellets because we heard they like wood pellets too to start their burners. So we invested in a truckload of wood pellets, and that was the beginning. And then it just slowly evolved. And as we were delivering wood pellets one day, we were over here in Austin area, and we were delivering some corn, and my bulk truck driver calls me and he goes, Sue, I don't know if I should stop these guys. I brought them 6 bags of pellets like you told me to, and I'm dumping 2 tons of corn in the back of this brand new Dodge Ram pickup, and they got boat oars and they're stirring in the wood pellets. So I says, no, put them on the phone. I want to know why they're doing that. So after they got done doing their little project, he called me back and told him, well, if I put a little wood pellets in there, I don't have so many maintenance issues. So then we made a bunch of ratios of corn and wood pellets and sent them to Al in Waseca, and he started our project and telling us how much heat would be in each product.
That's when you got involved, Al?
That is, Dan, and one of the things at AURI, our pilot lab, our services are meant just for that value-added agriculture. When Sue called You know, she was aware of some of the characteristics you need for renewable fuel, and she wanted to know BTU, how much energy it had per pound. She was focusing on getting under a certain ash content for optimum stove performance. So that's when we started working with Sue.
Can you help us define exactly what you mean by biofuels?
Biofuels is a broad term, and basically it's fuels that are renewable. Under ag biofuels, you have the solid biomass fuels, so that could be wood. Wood could be in there. You could have ag fibers from corn stover to wheat straw, you know, the different varieties of straw. But then you also have your energy crops, your switchgrass, your miscanthus, a lot of the grasses that are fast growing. They sequester carbon, and a lot of universities are doing work on that side. Then you actually have your liquid biofuels, and that would be your ethanol and your biodiesel. So there's actually a couple different categories.
Thank you. And Sue, let's say that the economics is about equal between fossil fuels, oil, LP, and natural gas, and corn. What's the advantage to using corn or another biofuel over those other products?
Well, one of them is definitely the emissions over LP and fuel oil. I mean, when Eagle Biofuels tries a new product, we try to keep it under 0.1% of sulfur. So therefore, we're keeping the emissions in the air breathable for people in the area. It's even better than cordwood because you're burning the bark when you burn cordwood. When you burn a wood pellet and corn, you're not burning the bark. You don't have as much sulfur emissions then.
And now maybe you can help on that. Other advantages to using a renewable product over biofuels versus oil or natural gas.
Right. A good example of that, and I brought some different products along. One is the pellet fuel. You know, we're working with companies right now. A good example is ag fibers. Many people are coming into AURI for assistance on developing densified material. What they want to use these ag fibers for is light industrial or more commercial settings. I mean, not a lot of the home heating stoves were designed for agricultural fiber, whether it's corn stover or even switchgrass, because they have a different combustion or ignition temp, and they're going to perform differently. But the people that are using them are those that are involved with greenhouses, that are involved with shops. And one of the individuals that we offered quite a bit of support to was to develop an ag fiber pellet. He has 65,000 square feet of greenhouse. It's actually a family, and it has a pretty high heating demand. He didn't have access to natural gas. He was using propane, and after looking at the price of propane, he went out and bought a couple pellet mills and decided to start using his own ag fibers. He actually planted some prairie grass to harvest, and we helped him to produce a biomass pellet very similar to this one, and the payback was tremendous for him because it got him off of propane. So it was successful for them, and then like I said, a lot of smaller shops and different groups like that are looking at using it. On the larger scale, there's some individuals that are using coal, and this is a much larger scale, but they're interested in blending in ag fibers primarily to meet either renewable standards potentially down the road, or even to help reduce the sulfur emissions right now. So those are the applications we're seeing.
Well, it smells a little bit like alfalfa, like I'm in the haymow.
Very possible.
And it certainly is clean. There's really no dust on my hands.
Yep.
It looks fairly easy to handle.
It is easy to handle, and that's one of the areas that AURI can provide assistance, because a lot of these fiber materials have a low bulk density. You know, they're ranging from 6 to 12 pounds per cubic foot. Well, the idea with pelleting is to help with transportation costs. And then you have to look at the economics. Does the cost of pelleting offset what you gain in transportation? And oftentimes it does. But when you have a densified material, those pellets are probably 40 pounds per cubic foot. And then there's a new technology. It's called a ram briquetter that some people are looking at. And you're going to like this one, Dan. It looks like basically just a giant pellet, or we always joke about making baseball bats. But it's the same theory. if you can envision an old square baler where there's a giant plunger that's putting the material under pressure, you don't have to grind it quite as fine as you do for pelleting, the fibers. The cost is a little bit more expensive, but they're very equivalent. A material like that can be broken into different sizes, and that's more for applications, you know, where you're co-firing it with coal.
Sue, do you have any other products that you brought with?
Oh, well, I just had this is the wood sawdust that we use when we make a wood pellet. In fact, this particular sawdust would be used to make a bedding pellet for animals. This is an aspen wood. But it goes into the pelletizer and it comes out, and we end up with a product similar to this. I'll just take a few out and put them in my hand so you can. Well, this particular product is an oak maple blend and would be used as a fuel. And wood has a natural element in it called lignin. See, it gives that shine to it.
Notice that.
The only type, everybody asks me, do you put anything in there? Well, we put maybe a little used vegetable oil in, but not just enough to keep the pellet mill lubed, and they stay very nice. And
well, in a way, we're collecting solar energy, aren't we, into that plant and then eventually putting it into a pellet. And you're delivering the sunshine in a way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when it's 30 below.
That's exactly what you're doing, Dan. You're capturing energy from the sun, and that's the neat thing about biomass. And one of the things when people talk about corn, you know, a big focus is carbon sequestration, you know, putting the carbon back into the soil. And a lot of the research that's been done, whether at the University of Minnesota, Iowa State, University of Nebraska, corn is actually a huge carbon sink. So it is good when you look at the life cycle of some of these biomass materials, corn with the root structure, and when it's been studied, how much carbon does that corn plant while it's growing capture and put into the soil, it's a very good number.
Another green thing we're doing with our delivery this year, and it's really taken off, is when a farmer has seed, when they buy seed, they get it in a big bulk sack. Some of those farmers don't have anything to do with them, or they return them to their dealer. Well, we're taking them on, filling them with whatever product the customer wants. And a lot of farmers have been buying our product because they want to sell their corn or they want to feed their corn. So they've been buying a blended product from us or a pellet product from us and blending their own, and they can come and get it in the big bulk sacks. And we also deliver the big bulk sacks with a powered dolly. So that is a reusable thing. We're just constantly reusing those bags. And some bags have been around now for 3 years, coming back to us and getting refilled. So
great recycling. And I saw you reaching for that other product down there.
Yes, this is a 30/70 blend, and people say, well, why would I burn 30% corn in let me get this going. In with my wood pellets? And we've kind of found from more and more people using this product is just this little extra corn allows this product to burn longer than if you would burn straight wood pellets. And you can burn it in both a pellet stove and a corn burning stove. So just this little bit is an advantage
to changing performance
on most machines.
What are some of your customers saying about bioproducts?
Well, number one, they find that the heat from wood or corn is a little cozier than what they would use when they burn LP or natural gas. They just feel that it makes their house just a little more warmer. And I also have people say, well, corn burns hotter than wood pellets, but I always come back and I says, it's not the heat, it's the humidity in the corn. You're getting a cozier feel, but it also does depend on the appliance. But I did some research by the Department of Energy and looked at just the Midwest. And when we started, 2% was heating with other alternative products besides cordwood, natural gas, fuel oil, and LP. So they were using wood pellets or corn. Now it was 4.5%, I think, last year when I looked in November. November of 2010. So it is growing. Very slow rate, but the market is growing. So I think people are seeing this as, if not a primary heat substitute, but a secondary heat substitute, and turning back the LP a little bit.
You both have done a great job of telling us about biofuels and adding value and taking the solar energy and turning it into a product that's renewable. Thanks so much, Sue. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Perhaps the best part of rural living is being surrounded by beautiful green spaces like these. A couple of ways that we can try to preserve these places is to reduce our consumption of fossil fuels and to boost our rural economy. And one major effort in this regard is the production of ethanol, turning corn into fuel, which if you think about it is all about harvesting the solar energy captured by the corn plant. I was given a rare behind-the-scenes tour of the Guardian ethanol plant in Janesville, Minnesota. I was amazed at this operation's size, efficiency, and productivity. And I learned that ethanol production is about more than just fuel. Let's take that tour. Well, Tom, thanks again for letting us come in and see the process of making ethanol, in this case out of corn. We've got an audience that loves to know about energy, loves to know about agriculture and food, so this is perfect.
It's great to have you. Great to have you. We're glad that you could come. On site here we have an inbound and an outbound scale. Trucks come in on the inbound scale. Generally, grain trucks will come in and they'll get probed for grain. The operator inside the scale room uses a joystick to actually sample the truck that comes in. Samples pulled into the scale house where he can test for moisture, foreign material. And then the truck pulls on the scale. His weight will automatically be registered on the scale. His grade of corn will be automatically on the scale. And as soon as the scale registers his weight, he can then proceed to grain unloading.
How long does it take him to do the probe process?
The whole process from the time a truck is probed, he's weighed, he dumps, he comes back around and weighs out. He can make it through in about an average of 6 to 7 minutes.
Per truck?
Per truck.
And that's very important to our farmers because they're busy and they've got many loads per day. How far out is your range of people bringing grain in?
We have grain that comes in as far as probably 90 miles from the facility. Probably the majority comes within a 40 to 50 mile range of the plant.
Tom, this is a really busy place. How many trucks come through here on an average day?
On an average day, there's probably about 200 to 230 trucks per day.
Each day?
Each day, yep.
6 days a week?
5 days a week.
5 days a week.
5 days a week. The most we've had through in one day has been about 280 trucks in one day.
Tom, if we bring a bushel of corn in and it's 56 pounds, how much is the yield of DDGs on the outgoing side?
It's generally broken into about a third, a third, a third. Every bushel of corn, a third of that can be produced into ethanol, a third of that will be produced into distiller grains, and then a third of that will be a combination of CO2 and water.
What happens next, Tom?
The trucks you see in line here, they're waiting to get filled with the distiller grains, the cattle feed that we produce, one of the co-products that we have. The truck here in the first bay, he's getting ready to unload corn.
What's this gentleman doing, Tom?
Gary is doing a second check on the quality of the corn. Sometimes when the quality of corn in a truck, the probe doesn't pick up good representative sample. So a lot of times our guys down here will do a second check on it, make sure that there isn't some bad corn in the bottom.
Why is good quality corn important?
Good quality corn is important because the better grade corn we get in, then the more efficient the process runs and the better quality we can produce. Dan, in this building here, this is the final storage for our distiller grains. This building here allows us to get another 24 hours worth of curing time. The curing time will lower the moisture a little bit, and will also lower the temperature of the distiller grains, and makes it easier to handle in the trucks. So when the trucks are loaded or the rail cars are loaded, they go down the road, they make it to their destination. It has a tendency to pack, and the cooler the product, the drier the product, the easier it is for the drivers to unload.
Tom, your product seems warm and it smells good.
Yeah, you'll notice it definitely has a little bit of a sweet smell to it. That comes from some of the solubles that we put on the DDG. And the temperature, we usually come to the building about 10 degrees above ambient temperature. The purpose of this building is to get a little bit extra cooling, which will aid in the transportation of the product. Dan, this is our tank farm. This is where we store our finished product, the 200 proof ethanol that we produce. You can see the larger tanks here. It's labeled denatured ethanol. It's that meaning of denatured ethanol. It's a low moisture alcohol. The moisture content is less than 1%, and we do mix up to about a 2% low-grade gasoline with the ethanol, so it's non-potable. And the 2% low-grade gasoline that is blended into the ethanol that we produce deems it fuel grade.
If I understand it right, if there's an ethanol spill, that's not a big problem because it's a non-polluting, non-dangerous kind of product until you put the denaturing agent in. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. Once you put the denaturant in, then it is considered an oil product. Just the straight ethanol does not present quite the hazards that it does once the 2% oil product gasoline's added to it.
Until the gasoline's put in, it's something you could actually drink. It's that pure, isn't it?
It is that pure. It is that pure, although there is several differences between a vodka type grade beverage alcohol and the ethanol or alcohol that we produce. Your beverage alcohols have specific columns and stills and specific things in the distillation process to remove some of the lower grade alcohols. Some of the congeners that are in the alcohol are removed in distillation, and that's pretty much the difference between a beverage grade alcohol versus an ethanol.
How much water actually is used in the process of making 1 gallon of alcohol?
We have recently installed some new technology, some advancements in the industry, and currently our usage runs about 2 gallons of water per gallon of ethanol produced, which is one of the lowest in the industry. This facility, when we first started production, we were about 3.5 gallons of water per gallon of ethanol produced. The new technology has reduced that considerably, and our average is just a little over 2 gallons of water used per gallon of ethanol produced.
Great progress.
Great progress. That's one of the interesting things about the industry is that it continues to change. Technology continues to improve. To produce a gallon of ethanol only gets more and more and more efficient.
KSMQ congratulates our FFA Student Leader of the Week, 2010 President of the Southland FFA Chapter, Lee Kloeckner of Adams.
My name is Lee Kloeckner, and I'm the former president of the Southland FFA Chapter from Southland High School, which is central in Adams, Minnesota. Southland area includes Dexter, Elkton, Teope, Rose Creek, and Johnsburg. As president, I helped develop a POA, which is a program of activities, which kind of involves everything that we do throughout the year, from camps to little day things at school, cookouts, anything, trips, anything that we do, I'm kind of in charge of just getting everything set to go for that. As a freshman, the president at that time kind of persuaded me to become more active. I really didn't want to do a whole lot, but he just really pushed me to the next level and persuaded me to become an officer. So at the end of my freshman year, I actually ran for the Sentinel position, in which I did win, and that just kind of sparked my career in the FFA. Being the Sentinel really gave me motivation to go to be the best that I could possibly be, and I did that by becoming the president. One of the highlights of my FFA career would be attending SLCCL in 2009. That is a state leadership camp for chapter leaders. It was a week-long camp in Hackensack, Minnesota. At that camp I learned many new skills, speaking skills, and I met many new people, some of which I still talk to almost daily. My future plans include going to the University of Minnesota this fall. At the U, I will be becoming a pre-vet major with the intention of becoming a large animal veterinarian. When it comes time to practice, I hope I can stay within an hour of this area just so I don't get too far away from my family, because a large portion of my family does live in this area. The biggest thing that I've learned in the FFA is to be early is to be on time is to be late, and to be late is to be forgotten. I use this in everything I do, being to work, hang out with people, whatever I do, I always try to be 5 to 10 minutes early just so everything goes smoothly.
Thank you for joining me on Farm Connections. I hope this look into alternative agricultural products will make you more aware of the many products already in our lives that began right here on the farm. See you next time on Farm Connections.